Nothing.
Hey, brother, do you want to put a giant rod in mind of it?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjaji Gauri. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjaji Everybody chants the Pranam chorus. Is it big enough? Can you read it? Yashodanandana Vajajanarayana. Yashodanandana Vajajanarayana. The Divine Loving Grace, say Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You are Nitya Lila Vishnu Mishubha, Brahman Sabrivraj, Astadhari Shishmar, Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anand Kori Vaishnava ki jai. Navacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Namaste Ghosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Vedanta Vishnu. Go Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Shri Hare Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kundarar Kangi Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Nodi Maya Govardhan ki jai, Purushottam Kshetra Puri Dham ki jai, Shri New Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gangamai ki jai, Jamunamai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Idharma Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ramdarashana Bhagavad Dham ki jai, Shri Prabhupada's Transcendental Distribution ki jai, Gomata Gosei ki jai, Merciful Lordship Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chari ki jai, Shyam Ved Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories Lord Sri Shri Guru and Shri Ranga, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta So welcome everyone to our morning program at Sri Vrindavan Dham. So nice of you to come and visit. How many people are here for the first time? First time? No? That's good. So we're going to read today from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, compiled by Srila Prabhupada, is all about the mercy incarnation of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to give a brief introduction, why we're going to be reading this and some of the subsequent verses. And first of all, I wanted to offer my humble obeisances. Om Agyan Tamanandasya Janjana Sakaya Chakshurumi Tamjina Tasmai Shri Guru Namah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master, Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, has caused this mercy, has forced my eyes open with the torchlight of knowledge. Therefore, I offer my most humble obeisances under his lotus feet, all the previous acharyas, all the assembled devotees, and although I'm completely unqualified, it's my duty, and I've been asked to speak something, so I pray that whatever I say may be in line with our previous acharyas, and please give me your blessings so that I can present it in a way that's maybe understandable and assimilatable. I want to mention that especially as I get older and I look back and take account of this incredible spiritual journey I began a little over half a century ago, I must admit I'm often intrigued and astonished at how it is I've been able to sustain an ardent spiritual practice for almost my entire life. And this induces me to reflect back on what some of the subtle spiritual principles are at work that have allowed not only myself, but all of us to develop on this path with determination, strength, and the development of faith to accomplish what Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita says is very rare. Krishna says, Sahasranam Manushanam Sahasreshu Kasti Yatati Sare Yatutam Abhisirinam Kastimam Viti Tattva. Out of thousands of men, thousands of people, one may be seriously inquisitive to know who am I? Where do I come from? Is there a God? Did I live before? Is there life after death? And among thousands of those persons who have actually achieved perfection, and what is it perfection Krishna is talking about? It's the perfection of realizing we're not this body, but we are Brahman, we're pure spiritual beings. And Krishna says, out of many, many of those who have that realization, how many people today can say they actually have that realization? He says that many, many of those, hardly one knows me in truth. So I wanted to focus today, as we were talking, as I mentioned, trying to understand what these subtle spiritual principles are at work that are allowing us to achieve something that's so rare. I wanted to focus on the order of the spiritual master, which is one of the most important, if not the most important, principles in the ongoing development of our Krishna consciousness. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadabai Bhakti Ratta Vijay. I don't know the exact reference, and I've asked different learned devotees who haven't been able to give me the reference, but they have heard this before. So I'm going to mention the analogy because it reflects a little bit on the rarity of the situation of being able to come in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord. They say the chances of us coming in contact with a pure, unalloyed devotee of the Lord and being able to, subsequently take initiation, engage in service, is analogous to a turtle in the middle of the ocean who happens to come up for air in the ocean. And as he comes up, there happens to be a piece of driftwood in the river and a hole in that piece of driftwood. And not knowing, he puts his head right through the hole to get his air. So that's the rarity of pure devotional service that we're trying to attain. So in these verses, it's this first one spoken by Prabhupada Saraswati. He was the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis in Varanasi, and on the request of his devotees, Lord Chaitanya went to visit them. And when he went there, he stayed in the area where people wash their feet, and all these very elevated Mayavadi sannyasis, very elevated, they follow incredibly strict principles that are difficult for practically anyone in this age to follow. And so they saw him sitting there very humbly, and he expanded his effulgence to the point where they were almost blinded, and they understood that he was. Of course, they all think, Om Namo Narayan, we are all Narayan. But they could realize that this is really Narayan there. And so they invited him up to the sitting place, and this then is how the conversation ensues. And you can repeat after me. Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma. Tahachari Karakine Bhavukera Karma. Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma. Tahachari Karakine Bhavukera Karma. Please chant.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma. Mataji?
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma. Anyone else?
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Vedanta Patana Dhyana Sanyasira Dharma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma.
Tahachari Karakene Bhavukera Karma. Vedanta Patana,
Vedanta Patana,
studying Vedanta philosophy.
studying Vedanta philosophy.
Dhyana,
Dhyana,
meditation.
meditation.
Sanyasira,
Sanyasira,
of a sannyasi. Dharma, duties. Tahachari, giving them up. Kara, you do. Kene, why? Bhavukera, of the fanatics. Karma, activities. Translation. Meditation and the study, this is Prabhupada Saraswati, the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis. Excuse me. Meditation and study of the Vedanta are the sole duties of a sannyasi. Why do you abandon these to dance with fanatics? Please repeat. Meditation and the study of Vedanta are the sole duties of a sannyasi. Why do you abandon these? To dance with fanatics. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As explained in regard to verse 41, Mayavadi sannyasis do not approve of chanting and dancing. Prabhupada Saraswati, like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, misunderstood Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be a misled young sannyasi, and therefore he asked him why he indulged in the association of fanatics instead of executing the duty of a sannyasi. And I'm going to continue here. You look as brilliant as if you were Narayan himself. Will you kindly explain the reason that you have adopted the behavior of lower class people? And I'll skip the purport and go to 71. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to Prabhupada Saraswati, "My dear sir, kindly hear the reason. My spiritual master considered me a fool, and therefore he chastised me." Purport. When Prabhupada Saraswati inquired from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why he neither studied Vedanta nor performed meditation, Lord Chaitanya presented himself as a number one fool in order to indicate that the present age, Kali Yuga, is an age of fools and rascals in which it is not possible to obtain perfection simply by reading Vedanta philosophy and meditating. The Shastras strongly recommend Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Kalo naste, 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 gati ranuta. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. People in general in Kali Yuga are so fallen that it is not possible for them to attain perfection simply by studying Vedanta Sutra. One should therefore seriously take to the constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Text 72. You are a fool, he said. You are not qualified to study Vedanta philosophy, and therefore you must always chant the holy name of Krishna. This is the essence of all mantras of Vedic kings. Purport. It's a long purport. Bear with me. Srila Bhaktisaranga Saraswati Goswami Maharaj comments in this connection. That one can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. I'm going to read that one more time. One can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. This acceptance of the words of the spiritual master is called Shravaka Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instructions without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that a disciple must accept the words of the spiritual master as his life and soul. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here confirms this by saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name of Krishna, he always chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra according to this direction. Krishna is the origin of everything. Therefore, when a person is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that his relationship with Krishna has been fully confirmed. Lacking Krishna consciousness, one is only partially related with Krishna. Lacking Krishna consciousness, one is only partially related with Krishna, and is therefore not in his constitutional position. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, spiritual master of the entire universe, he nevertheless takes the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of a spiritual master to execute the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One who is very much attracted to the study of Vedanta philosophy must take lessons from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this age, no one is actually competent to study Vedanta, and therefore it is better that one chant the holy name of the Lord, which is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, as Krishna himself confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedascha Savar Ameva Vedya, Vedanta Krid Vedavid Evichaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example of how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty, but if a disciple, thinking himself more advanced than his spiritual master, gives up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the science of Krishna and must be always ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. I'm going to read that again. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the signs of Krishna. And must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. A disciple should always remain a fool before his spiritual master. Therefore, sometimes pseudo-spiritualists accept the spiritual master who is not even fit to become a disciple because they want to keep him under their control. This is useless for spiritual realization. One who imperfectly knows Krishna consciousness cannot know Vedanta philosophy. So it's a long purport there. I'll read the next verse. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. So anyway, just go back a little bit. So Prabhupada states that Lord Chaitanya, of course, he's the incarnation of Krishna, but in his early life, he was a vastly learned scholar. And then he actually started reciting this grammar, things of Vyakarana, where every aspect of grammar is used to identify and glorify Krishna. And he told his students, he said, because he started transforming, and he told his students, if you don't like this, because it's all about Krishna, and if you want to study regular Sanskrit grammar, I give you my blessings. You can go to another teacher. But all of them, or most of them, end up staying. So this is so instructive. This is always so instructive. That's why Krishna comes as a devotee himself to show how to execute this process of Krishna consciousness as a devotee. And so this is one of the core instructions we get from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is 10 volumes, and which is exemplified by Lord Chaitanya himself, who, his spiritual master, told him that you're not qualified to study Vedanta. So on this tape I was listening to, Prabhupada was talking about that. He was getting really angry about all these people they have in this Vedanta society. And he says it's the same Vedanta society over 100 years, and they're studying Vedanta, and he said they're not following any principles. They're becoming intoxicated, same holistic connections, everything for over 100 years. And he says, and then he talks about how Arjuna was giving so many arguments based on Vedic understanding, which materially are valid arguments. But then he submitted himself to Krishna as his spiritual master. And Prabhupada says, when you do that, because friendly talks between friends, they can go on forever. But when you accept your spiritual master, as it says, one should accept the order of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. Then there's no argument. And Prabhupada says all these persons who are proud of their learning, and they may be great scholars. Prabhupada said it, I think, 6 or 7 times in a row. He says, materially, they may be speaking so much, but they should know that spiritually, they're all damn rascals. And he said it again, they're all damn rascals, again and again. So this is very, very instructive. So, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport in his Anubhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Goswami, says the actual effect that will be visible as soon as one achieves transcendental knowledge is that he will immediately become free from the clutches of Maya and fully engage in the service of the Lord. Unless one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, one cannot become free from fruitive activities under the external energy. And that's why in this verse we just chant Harinam, 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 Evake, Kaloi, Noste, 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 Gataram. There are all these processes in the Veda that are explained in a great deal. Karma Kanda, Gyan, the process of Gyan, yoga is explained. And Astanga yoga, all these processes are not possible in this age. And that's why it says in the Kali Sankarana Upanishad, I believe where this mantra comes from, it's said 3 times, there is no other way. There's no other way through Gyan. There's no other way through yoga. And Gyan means speculative, philosophy. I try to understand in this process of neti, of understanding what God is by understanding what He's not. And nor through karma kanda can one understand. So we just read, it says that unless one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, in other words, unless we come and practice the process of devotional service, he says one cannot become free from fruitive activities under the external energy. And this is the process of our self-purification, because we are addicted as conditioned souls to this fruitive mentality that thinks, well, I put in an effort, therefore I should get a concomitant effort. But Lord Chaitanya says, no, you may trample me under your feet, and you may not ever become present before me for millions of years, but still, I won't give up this process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not only in this life, but Mama Janmani Janmani, birth after birth after birth. So this should be our determination. So, unless one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, one cannot become free from fruitive activities under the external energy. However, when one chants the holy name of the Lord offensively, one can realize a transcendental position that is completely aloof from the material conception of life. Rendering service to the Lord, a devotee relates to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 relationships. So why are we trying to develop relationships in this world? As a friend, as a parent, as a lover. Why are we, as a servant, right? We have to work in the job as a servant. Why do we engage in all these different relationships when we know that ultimately we have to give them all up? Because in the core of our soul, these relationships exist. And what we're trying to do, because we are all servants of Krishna, we are eternally related with Him in one of these 5 relationships. So we're acting to try to achieve those relationships, but we're doing it through the material energy. So our fulfillment is not full, is not complete. So a devotee relates to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 5 relationships, namely Shanta, neutrality, Dasya, servitorship, Shakya, friendship, Vatsalya, parenthood, or Madhurya, love, conjugal love. And thus he relishes transcendental bliss in that relationship. Such relationship certainly transcends the body and the mind. When one realizes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Supreme Person, he becomes completely eligible to chant the the holy name of the Lord. Such an ecstatic chanter and dancer must be considered to have a direct relationship with the Lord. What's happening when we chant? We're all in the process of reestablishing our relationship with Krishna. And as we go on in our spiritual practice, we're uncovering our spiritual body. We have our spiritual senses, we have our spiritual mind, we have our spiritual intelligence. And the more we connect with that by this amazingly powerful process of self-purification, by chanting Krishna's holy name, then gradually we become less and less dependent on our material body and on all these reflections. Because it says that Atashi Krishna Nagadi, Navaved Grainandriya, Sevamukhi Jivaga, Swami, no one can understand the actual significance of the transcendental aspect of Krishna's name, his form, his activities, with one's material mind and intelligence. So if we keep trying to do that, we'll constantly be frustrated. And why do we keep trying to do that? I've been doing this process for over 50 years, and I'm still trying to do that. Because as conditioned souls, we are hell-bent on trying to understand everything through our external senses. And there's where following orders of the spiritual master comes in. Because this process of Krishna consciousness is completely subtle. And unless we really apply ourselves to the process and always going inside and introspecting and challenging our mindset and taking guidance from superior devotees, then we can go on with this process of chanting Hare Krishna for many millions of years, many millions of lifetimes, and not achieve pure love of Krishna. It's a science. We have to understand, but it's a subtle science, and we have to understand it and apply ourselves properly. It says that when Krishna becomes pleased with us, our senses that are now materially contaminated become saturated by Krishna's kindness. And then gradually, by his mercy. And this is done not just through Krishna, but through the mercy of the spiritual master. Because he is the one who introduces us to Krishna. And Prabhupada says, if you're looking for a spiritual master, once you accept the spiritual master, you have to follow what he says without argument. If you can't do that, then you should wait to find a spiritual master who you can. He says one should not accept the spiritual master until he studies that spiritual master for at least a year. Such a relationship that we just mentioned in these 5 different rasas certainly transcends the body and mind. When one realizes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Supreme Person, he becomes completely eligible to chant the holy name of the Lord. Such an ecstatic chanter and dancer must be considered to have a direct relationship with the Lord. So we are uncovering our direct relationship with the Lord. But in that process, just speaking from my own personal experience, it's laced with a lot of frustration. And the natural question that always comes up within my mind, why am I always feel like I'm going back? sometimes, a lot of times I feel like I'm going like backwards and not forward, because we're going really deep in this process of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, clean the hearts of especially Westerners. Already my experience, many Indians are already very, very exalted. And I think for me to come up to that birth will take many future births. But Prabhupada said, in the West, cleaning our heart is kind of like cleaning a piece of coal. Now, how far do you have to get cleaning a piece of coal to like clean it? It's the whole thing's black. There's no, so, it takes time, and it takes frustration, because we're always, our consciousness is absorbed in external sense gratification on so many different levels. And so that's what the chanting does. It gradually quiets the mind. How should that chanting be done? Unmotivated and uninterrupted. And as I mentioned in class before, for me the unmotivated part is I don't know how Krishna is going to accomplish that. It gradually is happening, but there's such a these motivations run so deep. But uninterrupted, I can work on that. I can increase my chanting. But not just the chanting, but as we increase our chanting, we are forced to increase the quality of our chanting. Because otherwise you won't be able to do more and more. Because the same, obstructions are there. So I'll continue. According to the Vedic principles, there are 3 stages of spiritual advancement, namely Sambandha Gyan, Avideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha Gyan refers to re-establishing one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sambandha Gyan refers to establishing one's original relationship with Supreme Personality of Godhead. Avideya refers to acting according to that constitutional relationship. And Prayojana is the ultimate goal of life, which is to develop love of God, prema, pamartha, mahan. If one adheres to the regulative principles under the order of the spiritual master, he very easily achieves the ultimate goal of his life. A person who is addicted to the chanting, addiction is good if you're addicted to the right thing. A person who is addicted to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra very easily gets the opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. There is no need for such a person to understand the grammatical jugglery in which Mayavadi sannyasis generally indulge. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a great fool, yet he maintained all the words that he'd heard from his spiritual master, strictly followed the principles stated by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam, who says that the material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the master people do not know this, therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled his Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the supreme truth. And now Prabhupada explains the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, one can overcome all misconceptions and entanglement in the material world by practicing bhakti yoga. Therefore, Vyasadeva, acting on the instruction of Sri Narada, has very, very kindly introduced Srimad Bhagavatam to relieve the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master also instructed him, therefore, that one must read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly with scrutiny to gradually become attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Why? Because what are we changing? What is the main thing we are changing to be able to chant purely? We're changing our attitude. And our attitude is developed from many, many lifetimes of conditioned life. Why is it important to read and study scrutinizing Srimad Bhagavatam? And for that matter, Chaitanya Charitamrita, because there is the book Bhagavat and there is the person Bhagavat. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the person Bhagavat, and studying his life. And studying the life of all these great devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn what the Vedic standard is. And so it gives us a bar to try to reach. And so we keep in our mind the importance of these exalted, very elevated Vaishnava qualities, which personally I have very, very little of. But by this process, chanting Hare Krishna, studying the lives of great devotees, gradually, by the grace of our spiritual master Krishna, we become imbued with these spiritual qualities. And so we are also fortunate because we happen to take birth in one out of the 1,000 Kali Yugas that Lord Chaitanya himself appears. Lord Chaitanya appears once every 4,300,000,000 years. He's the mercy incarnation of Krishna. He's not just Krishna. He's Krishna's eternal consort, Radha, the supreme spiritual mother. And he comes once every 1,000 Kali Yugas, and it's Kali Yuga. He came 500 years ago. Just 500 years ago. Somehow or other, we all won the lottery. One chance out of 1,000, like that's like winning the lottery. And he's coming, he appears the highest level of pure love of God to the lowest of the low. Like all of us would hope would there before us otherwise. So I think I'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, comments, or insights, realizations they'd like to share.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. This class is so enlightening. Thank you so much. So I just want to make sure I understand. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could, so in every other yuga, he's not there. Like he won't give the mercy to Ramanja. In all the other yugas, just this one. Oh my God! Wow, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, and there's many mantras, and a lot of, especially people in India, think, you're chanting Hare Krishna. Well, that's nice. I got my own mantras, and I'm at home. I do my rituals. I don't need that. No. This is the Maha Mantra. Why is it called the Maha Mantra? It's given personally by Lord Chaitanya, by God himself. When does that ever happen? Krishna didn't do that. Parasaram didn't do that. Lord Nrsimha, none of these other incarnations of God did that. It's non-different from Krishna. And it's empowered by Lord Chaitanya's potency because he's the Yuga Avatar. How difficult is spiritual life in Kali Yuga? How difficult is it? It's unlimitedly difficult. And now, even, material energy is moving so fast. It's like everyone's handed, like, what are these phones? They're like, having mystic power. Seriously, you can just get unlimited information on any subject you can imagine. Was like a city that yogis had in previous lifetimes. And nobody imagined, if you go back in time and talk to our grandparents, our great-grandparents, do you imagine that the kind of industry and technology that's developed would be, no one would even believe it. So there's so much chance for distraction. But this is such a special time we're living in now, and there's some huge change going on. And I mentioned this before, but I keep talking about it because to me it's like amazing, to go back in history. Because when I joined the movement in 1972, nobody knew what meditation was. Nobody was doing yoga. And now there's a yoga studio in every corner. There's all kind of open-minded, spiritually minded people in every culture in the world. What's happening on the planet? Srimad Bhagavatam tells us in 5th canon, he says, this is not ordinary. First of all, to take birth in India, in Bharatvarsh, is not an ordinary thing, and you have to remember that. You may be in America now, but you represent the greatest spiritual culture there ever was. I asked people to come to the palace, I said, do you know how old your tradition is? And people said, 4,000 years, 10,000 years, 20,000 years. No? Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Vivishwan Imam Vivashvate Yoga Proktavan. He said, I instructed this science of yoga to the sun god 200 million years ago. And in human society, because Vivishwan instructed his son Manu, who instructed it to do Ikshvaku, and it's been existing in human society for over 1 million years. So this is the great treasure of spiritual wisdom. But now what's happening is very uncommon, because very exalted, open-minded people are taking birth in every culture. And in the government, and in the environmental, all these things, the opportunity for preaching is unparalleled. And if we really analyze what's happening in the world, it's not ordinary. And if we go back, because we were talking about the instruction of the spiritual master, and the spiritual master, like Prabhupada, is called Tri-Kala Gyat. He's completely conscious of past, present, future. And what did Srila Prabhupada say? And Srila Prabhupada did not have any small vision. He wanted devotees to be at the forefront of every single aspect of society. And he told us, he said, 50 years from now, he said, in your lifetime, there will be massive unemployment in the cities. There will be millions of people leaving the cities. I want you to have farms. I want you to learn how to become self-sufficient. And I want you to teach it to others. So how many of us even believe what Prabhupada said? And we do believe it. Why don't we actively trying to manifest that in the first farm community in America? It's not easy, We're all, myself included, city people. Or they say you take the boy out of the city, you can't take the city out of the boy. But somehow or other, we have to do this because it's a big change going on in the world. And if we live our life simply with our head in the ground, waiting for things to change, we'll be way behind the curve. And Prabhupada had this vision that people are going to be leaving the cities, and we have to be able to accommodate them. Any other questions, comments? Sarah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for another very amazing, insightful class. So, my question is, I often feel like I am just being tossed around. I'm being, my karma presented a certain intelligence and mind and periods of life that have different struggles, and I seem to be controlled or pulled by this mode or that mode, depending on the time of my life. And, even my emotions are affected by the influence of the moon and my chart, etc., etc. And so I feel like I don't have so much free will often. In addition to that, reading the Bhagavatam and all these devotees, and then reading the CC, or parts of the CC, and knowing that all of Krishna and his entourage come with Lord Chaitanya. So reading these stories in the CC, like one thing that's always in the back of my mind is, yeah, but Jagai and Madai are like Jai and Vijay. I'm reading all of these stories and I'm thinking, yeah, but these are super exalted personal associates of Krishna. I can't see myself in these stories. So how do I somehow, I don't know if you even understand my question.
I understand perfectly, because I myself am in that club. I'll be overwhelmed by this formidable material energy. But you have to remember that who did Lord Chaitanya come for? He came specifically for you and for me and for others, everyone, because we're all most fallen. But in the essence of who we actually are, we are some really exalted, eternal servant of Krishna. And we should have faith that we're in the process of uncovering that. And, we have to adjust our spiritual practice accordingly, because everyone is different. And we can't simply do it like everyone else does. That's my own personal experience. I've been doing this for over 50 years. And I'm constantly adjusting, because I spend my whole life so much in the mode of passion and ignorance that I could not access, this internal world that is really our whole life. I realize as I get older, and so chanting is the essence of everything we do. We do so much service with devotees, and that's purifying in so many different ways. But when we sit down and chant Hare Krishna, it's us and Krishna. And we have to learn to relish those times and go deeper into that relationship. We have to force ourselves to do it. It's not easy. Especially we have all these misconceptions, all these feelings of being unworthy, but we become worthy by, like Lord Brahma says in this famous verse, I don't know the Sanskrit, but I should know. He says that, he says that if we go on with our duties in Krishna consciousness, suffering the reactions of our past karma with a attitude of acceptance, humility, tolerance. He said, this struggle we go through doing that actually becomes our ticket to go back to Godhead. And if we struggle our whole life, because it's a struggle, it is a struggle. It's not a small struggle. It's a big struggle. And if we stick with it, then, because Prabhupada would say, devotees sometimes would go say, Prabhupada, I'm really struggling. He said, oh, that's good. He said, you're struggling for Krishna. He says, being in this world means you're going to struggle. And you have a choice. You can either struggle for Maya, or you can struggle for Krishna. And if we struggle for Krishna, every single thing we do, no matter what our mentality is, because we're sticking with it, that becomes our eternal asset. That is deposited into our spiritual bank account. We have no idea how much we're getting from that bank account. And that is, we're not interested in what that can do with us, for us materially in this world. We're interested in development. We should be interested in uncovering our eternal relationship with Krishna. And when we do that, when we agree to simply act, no matter how difficult it is, and do our duty, then our life is glorious. And you know, at the end of this life, we will attain some spiritual destination, either directly back to Godhead, or as Prabhupada said, he said, you have all been sent by my spiritual master, and we should all think like that. And he said, you're being trained up. And then in your next life, when you may go to a universe where Krishna's, or someone like Srila Prabhupada is executing his pastimes, and we can become part of that. And because, you know, this is our duty, to preach to others. And especially all of you from India, before you go home, you should pick up whatever books, Prabhupada's books that you don't have for your own library. But not only this, you're actually here to get Krishna's blessings, right? We're all here for that. What is the best way to get Krishna's blessings? Krishna says, one who gives this gift of devotional service to me, to others, he is most dear to me. He says, never will there ever be anyone more dear to me than he. And this whole pastime of Krishna reclaiming the fallen souls back to Godhead is so attractive that Krishna comes himself, and then he comes again as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a devotee. And so this is the eternal pastime of the Lord. So when you go home, don't only get books for yourself, but get books to give away as gifts. And these are wonderful gifts. You look at Krishna book, all these amazing stories of Krishna. It's all transcendental vibration. You give that to another person, you have no idea what kind of spiritual benefit that you get from that. Same thing, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. So anyway, I hope that helped answer your question. We're a little bit over time. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Chaitanya ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, we will certainly have breakfast in our prasadam hall, entering through the door.